If you've been injured in an accident and had surgery, you probably assume your insurance company paid the bills, and that's the end of it. But here's something that most people don't know. Even after your treatment is paid for, you might owe back money from the proceeds of your injury settlement. Hi, I'm New York City and Staten Island personal injury trial lawyer Brian O'Connor. And in this video, I'm going to show you or explain what medical liens are, how they've changed in New York, and how they can seriously impact your injury settlement, unless you have a strategy. So let's start with the basics. A medical lien is when someone like a hospital, an insurance company, or a government program has a legal right to get paid back from your personal injury settlement. And why? Because they paid for your care, and now they want reimbursement out of the money that you're receiving from your case. Another word you're going to hear is subrogation. And that's the process where an insurance company steps into your shoes and tries to get their money back from the person who caused your injury, or more commonly, from your settlement. So here's the bottom line. If someone else paid for your medical bills, they might have a claim against your settlement. And if this surprises you, you're not alone. When I first started practicing law more than 25 years ago, private health insurers could demand repayment from your injury settlement. And it didn't matter if you needed the money to cover pain and suffering, or lost wages, or future care. They still came after it, and the law allowed it. I can remember many cases that often could not be settled because the client's private health insurance wanted to get paid back for the cost that they paid for the client's medical care. Sometimes the insurance policy limits weren't enough to cover the cost of the medical lien, which resulted in the client not settling the case because they'd be left with nothing. This in turn caused too many cases to go to trial, which overloaded the court system, thereby delaying a lot of cases. But back in 2009, New York passed a new law called General Obligations Law, Section 5-335, and it changed everything. The law says that when you settle a personal injury case, it's now presumed that the settlement did not include any compensation for the cost of healthcare services, lost earnings, or other economic loss, so the injured person is not obligated to pay or reimburse the healthcare company. So in plain English, private health insurance carriers can no longer demand repayment out of your settlement. They can't file liens and they can't subrogate. The law was designed to protect injury victims, and it works. But there's a big catch. Even though private health insurance plans can't claim a piece of your settlement, some entities still can. So I want to break it down for you. Number one is Medicare and Medicaid. Now these are government programs under federal and state law, and they're still entitled to repayment for whatever bills that they paid arising out of your accident. Number two is workers' compensation. If your case was covered under workers' comp, the comp insurance carrier is still going to have a lien, and they're allowed to recover a portion of what they paid. Typically, their lien is reduced by 1/3 or the cost of litigation to you, which is usually slightly more than 1/3. The third exception for the General Obligations Law is something called an ERISA plan. Now this one trips a lot of people, even some lawyers. ERISA stands for the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, and this is a federal law that governs some employer-sponsored health plans, specifically ones that are self-funded by the employer. Now a health plan under ERISA can often claim repayment rights, but only if it's a self-funded plan and the language of the plan gives them that specific right. These are called ERISA liens, and they're powerful because federal law overrides state protections like New York General Obligations Law. So essentially, these ERISA plans can just ignore state law because their rights come from federal law. The short version, if you're on Medicare, Medicaid, workers' comp, or a self-funded ERISA plan, someone might be waiting to take a piece of your settlement. So let's say you settle your injury case for $300,000. That sounds great until you find out Medicare wants $30,000 back and the hospital filed their own separate lien. Suddenly that $300,000 settlement isn't all yours. Liens can cut deep into your net recovery. And here's the worst part. Some attorneys don't even start dealing with liens until the case is over. That's a huge mistake. At that point, your leverage is gone, and the client is the one who suffers. Here's what we do differently. We build a lien strategy from day one. That means we identify every potential lien early, Medicare, Medicaid, workers' comp, hospital bills, ERISA plans, you name it. We verify amounts and whether those liens are even valid. We negotiate. Many times we can get reductions. Medicare has a process for that, and so does Medicaid sometimes. Even ERISA plans can be negotiated for less if you follow the right process. We also structure the settlement sometimes. We make sure it's worded to protect the client and try to limit repayment wherever legally possible. This is a detailed, high-stakes process, and it can mean the difference between walking away with a fair recovery or walking away with frustration and unexpected bills. Medical liens are one of the most overlooked and often dangerous parts of a personal injury case. Just because you've settled, it doesn't mean it's over. If your lawyer isn't proactively dealing with liens from the beginning, you could be leaving tens of thousands of dollars on the table. Or worse, owing money back that you didn't plan for. If you've been injured or you're dealing with surgeries, Medicare, comp, or any health insurance at all, don't wait until it's too late. We offer free case reviews, and we'll walk you through your case, your medical bills, and any lien exposure, so you have a full financial picture. Reach out to us if you have any questions, because your recovery isn't just about healing, it's about protecting your future.